Hello. So this video is an attempt again to capture, um, to attempt to see how much the camera can capture while I practice Nirbeeja Yoga. Nirbeeja Yoga is a practice of self-maintenance, so there's a lot of internal work that happens, and internal work is the bed from which the external world has relevance, has has a relationship, because it is a person that is related to things outside that is visible from the eye. So there is an inner world that the eyes cannot see inside. The retina is facing outside. So what the eyes can see outside, but inside the retina, there is a world. Yeah, there is a space inside. So what happens inside is more like the canvas on which, say, what is happening outside, what is being seen from outside, has an imprint on. What the ears can hear has an imprint on. What the senses can sense has an imprint on. The experiencer of life is inside. So in the work in Nirbeeja Yoga, the work happens beginning inside in relationship to the outside. So the connection is what happens by the experiencer with the experience. Okay, so the attempt is to see if and how much, yeah, the camera can capture what is happening. So where possible, I will voice, and let's see how that goes. Yeah. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to capture the, well, let's just say the foundational pose, or what I would, well, that's in the Hook Yogini terms, but what I am referring to here is a basic practice that would form the basic attention from which everything else also has more phraseology. It's like you have alphabets, and from alphabets, combinations of alphabets, we form words, we form letters. Okay, we form letters, we form words, we form phrases, we form sentences, we form paragraphs, stories, volumes. So the basics are like the letters, but this is more like in the practice terms. We have several kinds of alphabets. So in the practice of Nirbeeja Yoga, the basics would form the five senses is a beginning. So what we already know is breath is hand in glove with the forces of life. The animating principle of life is, well, hand in glove with the movement of breath. So there's an inhalation, there's an exhalation, and this movement, this rhythm is prevalent not just in our body, but also we see in life. After the day comes night, after the night comes day, so there's a rhythm there. After work comes rest, after rest, again you get to work, so there's a rhythm there. Between fun and work, there's a rhythm there again. So I'm going to pause here. There's also a rhythm between being and doing, and after doing, you again be. So that's between birth and death and birth. So that's also a rhythm. Now you're going to more a deeper kind of a rhythm, but these are already existing rhythms which we know about, but perhaps we don't see that after birth there is death, but after death there is also birth. Yeah, in the sense that you see a plant, it grows old, becomes all of it, and then it goes into the soil, maybe becomes decayed material, but then from that material again arises another. Yeah. So it's a bit well, the phoenix is a good example. It's a mythical creature, but it represents this rhythm kind of. While we are alive, the phoenix is a bird which grows into its full size, and then it goes through a transformation phase wherein it becomes ashes, and from the ashes arises another bird. So it is during the course of its lifetime. So Nirbeeja Yoga kind of has a certain dynamism by which the perspective of life and death and rhythms have a certain relevance in the present moment, in the everyday moments of living, day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute, moment to moment. So, having set that context, it is important now to attempt again to capture this. So I'm again bringing my attention to my breath and observing how the breath, being hand in glove with the movement of life, has an inhalation and an exhalation in resonance with the rhythms of life itself, as stated above a few minutes back. So this is one of the rhythms. So observing this basic rhythm gets in touch with, there is also the heartbeat, which is an expansion and a contraction. And as I'm breathing and noticing that my shoulders going up and down because my lungs are expanding and contracting in response to the inhalation exhalation. It's like a lever pulley kind of a thing. So there is this mechanism, expansion, contraction. The mechanics, the structure supporting the function. So the anatomy supporting the function, the physiology. And the physiology is again in response with the anatomy. So they both work together. So it's like the machine parts and its function. And the function again, the way it functions again reflects back on the parts. So you can repair so if something is malfunctioning, you can either repair it by the function or you can repair it by the parts. Now, but you need to have the perspective of both, that both are interrelated. Now, that's a little technical talk. And it all comes from a holistic understanding of what is all this? What role does this machine part play in the whole scheme of things? So it's not just anatomy, physiology, but it's also part of a greater whole. So it needs to work in sync with the whole machinery or the whole system, so that it's not just functioning all by itself, because that would be called as cancer. Yeah, you know what cancer is. It just functions by itself as in how it pleases, but it's not quite in sync with the whole system. So that is the need for why we need the sync of each and every part being in sync with the whole, and the whole body as a whole being in sync with the larger whole, which is life. So in Nirbeeja Yoga, with the breath as the foundation, as a basis for attention, for being, because the breath gives credence to the fact of being alive, because the breath is hand in glove with life, with the forces of life, moving through the body, animating the body, in response with the life outside that supports the life here by food, water, air, space, earth, spirit, supports each other. So what I have is, that brings my attention again now to the 5 elements. I'm also made up of 5 elements: fire, water, fire by the heat, water by the fluids, earth by the tissues, space by all of these tissues are occupying certain space, air by the air moving in and out of my body, spirit by the energy, constitution, the whole that makes my body, makes me, with the with all of the contributory factors that makes me versus somebody else. So that would form the spirit. And then there is also movement, movement arising from a combination of all of these, the five elements. So when there is movement, there is also stillness, which is no movement. And when there is movement, there is also a frequency, a certain rhythm, a certain sound, because sound and frequency, light and sound have frequencies. Yeah. So frequency is also, when there's movement, there's also sound. So when there's sound, there's also light. So frequencies are again sounds, they have sound. So when there is sound, there is also not other than sound, which would be silence. And silence, sound, and silence, stillness, together, they also form something. So everything that has, anything that is a thing has a certain substance to it. So when there is substance, there is also other than substance, which is no substance, nothing. So stillness, silence, and nothing forms the basis. That sort of is a good, nice space to have three components by which to hold, to form a basic structure by which to hold reality. Like say there's a diamond, you need something by which to hold it. So if I could hold it, I don't think I can hold it with just one something, because it is likely to topple. Two things, it has a certain stability, but there's a chance that it could go, like this. But if I have three, there's a chance that it would be more stable and not topple around. Four would give it even more stability. Now if it's got a circle, it will hold it just where there. Yeah. So three is a good enough basic by which to hold a diamond, which is nice perspective, I think, by which to hold something so beautiful as reality. Yeah. So I hold reality by silence, stillness, and nothing, at least to start with. And in this presence, so I'm now observing the warmth in my body, which is a reflection of the heat. And in the foundational pose, I bring attention to the warmth in my eyes. And the warmth in my eyes is more like I see things with the light. The light enters my eye, but I see things by the light. And light is a reflection, is synonymous with fire. So I'm in the presence of the reflection of light in my eye that my eye is made for. My eye is made to capture, reflect light. Now, if I'm not going to capture it, if I'm not going to do that, I have a certain presence of light by the warmth. And when I'm in the presence of the warmth, I'm in a way in the presence of light. And then light is a reflection of the fire, as I just said. So I'm being in honorable presence, honoring the presence of fire that is me and is also outside me. So I'm not doing anything. It's more like being in a gentle, caring, kind. Well, it's kind. The meaning of the word kind gets a meaning when I'm being in the presence in this way, when I'm being gentle and mindful, then the word kind gets a meaning. So that's one, being in the warm presence of the warmth in my eye. And now I'm bringing my attention to my ear, and I'm noticing the warmth in my ears. And my ears are my instruments for sound. And I'm not holding sound, because I don't do that. My ears only reflect what falls on it, on the eardrums. Yeah, my eardrums only vibrate to what sound there is. So I'm being in the presence of the warmth, but in the presence of the warmth, ears are for receiving and moving through air. Yeah, through air comes sounds, because the sound, the vibrations in the sound in the air moves the eardrums. So I'm in the presence of air through my ears. Air that makes me. Well, it's more like a combinatory thing, but I'm not going to directly go there because it doesn't make sense that way. Now, I'll probably have to make another one because it's a little more complex. Eyes are not just for fire, because there's more in seeing than just about fire. Now, there's a combination of the 5 elements in seeing. There's a certain combination about it, which makes it not just a single thing, but many. Now I'm bringing my attention to my breath, and I'm observing the smoothness of my breath, the smoothness of inhalation and exhalation. It's like a balmy air, because there's a warmth and there's a certain ease in which the breath is naturally flowing. I can control my breath, of course, but even if I do that, I'm only obstructing the flow and the smoothness of the natural in and out. So I'm observing the smoothness of the breathing. So it's a very balmy kind of a thing. It does a lot of wonders onto this part of my nose. Yeah. Yeah. And then also what's coming to my attention is in the region of my bregma. I call it the bregma, biologically. It is the fontanelle. As a baby, we had these, between these frontal bones, parietal bones, and the frontal bones, they come together, parietal bones here, and then as a baby, there would be the space here and here. As a baby, what we watch for is that this plate gets more ossified, yeah, more, well, more calciumed, so that it's more structured. But we have that space as the bregma, as a suture between where the bones come together. It's not quite a suture, but it's more like the place where the bones come together. So this place, I'm noticing a certain, it's like a ventilator, you know. So the skull breathes, or rather the brain breathes through the ventilators of the skull. Okay, because they're not like completely like that or completely close, but there are sutures. Yeah, you can see an image of a skull on Google or any picture in anatomy, and you'll notice these places where the bones come together. So my brain is breathing by the sutures of the skull, by the ventilators of the skull. So that's a nice little. So this is a centering pose in Nirbeeja Yoga. I like the centering pose more than the foundational. I like this centering because I like to be my whole house, not just foundation. Okay, so here's centering pose. It's so limited by the word foundational. Well, it works for other methods of yoga. For Nirbeeja Yoga, centering is, yeah, centering. Because it's nice to be free. Now, and in the idea of the relief of being unconditioned, which is quite a how space where Nirbeeja begins to come to happen. It's a freedom, of not being constricted in systems, but is a system of itself, but which is not bound by cages of belief systems of how things should be, but is my space. I can just be or not be, and it's still fine. I could just be a Bob, really is fine. Not like home space. Now, I'm not expected to be a certain way. Happy space. Now, so that is eye, ear, nose, bregma. That's 4. And then I'm also bringing my attention to my belly button. So the belly button has been connected to mommy as I've been growing, and mommy belly button is also connected to mommy space, to mother space, which is from where I came to be. I'm a unit of consciousness. Yep. So as a unit of consciousness, I came to be born in my mommy's womb. So my belly button is a material, physical evidence of being connected to my mother and to mommy space, life mommy space. Yeah, big mother life. Now, me baby, yeah. When you're a child of the universe, I can be just child. You guys want me to be all big and all of that. I'm also that. I'm not only that. I'm also a child. I'm not only a child. I have all of these different roles, but I'm not limited by my roles. I have these roles and I'm all of these roles, but I'm not limited by just them. I can be 10, 100 other roles. Yeah. I'm not just going to copy hold into this tiny little peg. Now, kegs, more like it. All right. See, it's easy to be free. If I'm not speaking, if I was not speaking, it would be much more, it would sound less chaotic, because when I'm speaking, you may be like, what is she talking about? Yeah? You don't talk like that. But if I'm not in touch with myself, the free, uninhibited, or rather, non-reactive, but just being free of the boundaries and just being me in my space, discovering who I am, what are all my constructs that makes me, or what are the constructs that I've made by which to inhibit me and just limit me to just these things, and not in touch with the freedom of just being, or also the freedom of being nothing, nobody. How would I even know what freedom is? How would I even know what movement is? If I've always only been limited to certain things, how do I know what movement is? How do I know what sound is? How do I know what color is? How do I know what anything is? If I have no perspective that is other than that is outside that's other than that. So Nirbeeja is being able to take all of that out and just be. And then I can say, okay, I like this, so I'm going to keep this. I have this, and then I can see how best I can now see so that it's working for them, for me. It's a relationship, it's a little restricted. How can I have it be in a way that it works for them as well as for me, whatever that I'm related with? Oh, okay. So that's the belly button. So we have eyes, ears, nose, bregma, that's like 4, navel 5, navel is the belly button, and then you have the pelvis. So you have in the males we have um, the urethra, we have, and the anus. In females we have anus, urethra, and the vagina. Yeah. So that makes 4, well, and then you have the pelvic floor. Now, in the movement, will you be in touch with the warmth of your pelvic floor, and as you be in the presence of the warmth of your pelvic floor, you might notice changes of temperatures, because that signifies the presence of movement, because anything that moves produces heat. Yeah. Every part of a body, there is heat because every part of a body is moving in one way or the other. It's like, you move an engine. You turn on the vehicle, you have your two-wheeler or your car, you turn it on. It's because there are parts moving in it that it generates heat. Yeah, and then you need to turn on your AC and all of that stuff. But if it was not running, it would be just cool. Yeah. So the body produces heat because there is always something moving in the body. So coming in the presence of the heat is also in a way, is also coming in the presence of movement that is there. So that's a path by which you begin to observe the doing which is happening. When you observe the amount of doing that is constantly happening, you begin to become present to the other than that, which is the non-doing. So we have the voluntary and the involuntary. Yeah. So I'll leave us with this, because too much too soon can be a little too much. Yeah. So that forms a foundational context to understand from Nirbeeja Yoga from. And the practice of Nirbeeja Yoga involves a centering pose. The centering pose involves bringing attention to breath and the 6 breaths. Well, we haven't come to the breaths, but at least we have a certain orientation to where to orient from. And that would be the eyes, warmth of the eyes, warmth of the ears, the warmth of the nose, yeah, as we breathe, warmth of the bregma, warmth of the belly button, and the warmth of the pelvic floor. So we have 6. The 6 forms a good foundation. And then when we can gently be in the presence of the 6, we begin to start noticing 3 important fires, but we're going to come to that later. But that would be a really good centering. So we have, when you have a lamp, so you have a little lamp there. So there's a fire, and then there is the earth, which is a container in which there is a fluids, like we have tissues, and then we have fluids, which would be like the oil in the lamp. And then there's a fire, which there are 3 fires, basically. Well, we have numbers are good, So one would be the region of, well, let's not, do you want to go there? All right. One is, let's say, the fire which you breathe fire, basically. Yeah. What that means is, when you speak, you're letting some of the fire out. Either you pelt it or you make something better. But the fire is, okay? So a little bit of fire is about the region of your mouth, your oropharynx, the junction between your skull and your spine. Okay, so and a little bit of the fire is also the fire of your soul, which is kind of contained or not contained, which is kind of maintained by the heart, and a fire also of everything actually. Well, you can't say everything. So, all right, let's just say the fire of the mind, so to speak, fire of the mind. Anvaharya. Now, it is another kind of a cooking, but it's when you're being in the presence of this, you notice, well, let's just say that forms the intestines and the pelvic floor together. Well, you can say that, but it's actually a whole body fire. But that takes a little too much to handle at the moment right now. But the 6 breaths, good. Yeah, good foundation course, good foundation. Okay, 6 breaths, and you have the entire heat of the heat of the entire body. The warmth of the entire body would form the, well, mind. Yeah. So you have 3 fires: fire of the entire body, fire of the heart, and fire of this junction. Yeah. You got to maintain them well, and then you have a good, nice cook. Okay, so we have 6 breaths. You had to maintain just 1 breath, and you're not aware of it. Now you have 6. 6 plus 3 breaths. 6, 79. Whoa, that's a nice 9. And then the 10th is about what you do with your life in the presence of these. That forms your vehicle. So we have 10, do we? Whew, you had to maintain just 1 life. Now you have to maintain 10. But without these, you wouldn't even know you exist. And you don't know how you exist. So, Nirbeeja Yoga is a way by which you notice what you have, who you are, what is your place and position in the whole scheme of things. What the hell is this reality? Is it hell, or are you living in hell, or how do you know the difference between heaven, earth, and hell? So, welcome to Earth. Yeah. Well, you're just beginning to learn what life is. So I would say welcome to Earth. And Earth has no meaning unless you connect with your body. Now this is yoga asana, because the asana is about how are you seated in Earth. Your body is the thing by which you're seated on Earth. Yeah, it's a living thing, but it's this living thing which tells whether you're alive and that you're alive on Earth. So yogasana is about being seated in your body, with your body in Earth, yeah, in this world space reality called Earth. So that's yogasana. Pranayama is observing the breath. More like pranayama is the restedness in your life force. Yeah, so you have prana is the moving life force. I wouldn't say chi, because chi has a certain connotation to it, which is different from many other uses of it. People tend to keep saying they're the same, but I have a certain difference of opinion about it. So prana is, well, the life, the animator of life. That is what I refer to as prana, animating principle of life. And what brings, I call it as not pranayama, I call it prana-ayama. So it is what brings rest in being rested in the animator of life, being rested with, by, of, for, yeah, in the animating principle of life. pranayama, and dhyana is about what you constantly stay in the presence of. And stay constantly in the presence of nothing, which holds silence and stillness, by which I hold reality. Reality makes sense. Reality informs me. I inform reality. So this is the foundational context, foundational material by which to begin to understand, practice, come to be in sync with life. Yeah. Thank you for listening.